Welcome, neighbor. I'm Glenda, and this is the Mr. Rogers Project. I'm rewatching old episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and reflecting on them through my adult eyes. Join me in this project. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'm also on Instagram and have a blog post for each episode if you'd like to leave comments there. You can stream episodes on Amazon Prime. Season 1, Episode 8, titled Keys, Locks, and Privacy. The air date is 1971, and it's from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Volume 1. Synopsis and some of my observations and reflections. Mr. Rogers opens the show singing, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood." A subscriber pointed out to me that although Mr. Rogers sings "this neighborhood," most people remember the lyrics incorrectly, singing "the neighborhood." The distinction is important and something to explore later. Fred always changes into a sweater and sneakers at the beginning of the program. I believe this is to create a feeling of slowing down, to promote a cozy, safe, and personal space. Fred really seems to draw a boundary between work and personal. We often talk about work-life balance these days. It's extremely easy for work to bleed over into our personal time due to technology and being accessible 24/7. We think of work-life balance as a requirement for self-care. I think Fred would argue that it's also about the people you're with. If you are not fully attentive to those you're with, be it work or personal, are you really listening? Are you really showing those around you that they are valuable and lovable? Are you being good? Are you being a good neighbor when your attention is divided? Mr. Rogers begins today's episode by showing us how locks and keys work. He presents us with various size locks and keys. He would like his young TV viewers to guess which key will open which lock by matching sizes. When Fred asks a question, he always pauses to give space for children to reflect and answer. As always, Fred promotes the necessity of reflection and shows an understanding that young children need more time than adults to process information, to answer a question. It's important to not rush a processing child and allow them to answer. Don't answer for them. After we explore the locks, Mr. Rogers tells us what we use locks and keys for. If you have a lock, you can decide if you want to keep something closed or open. He also explains how locks can provide a boundary, creating a private space. Mr. Rogers says everyone needs a place to be alone, then sings the song, "I Like to Have a Place of My Own." Mr. Rogers asks if we have seen a key to the city. He explains that a key to the city doesn't open any locks, but it communicates that we're glad you came here. He then shows us a key to the city of Miami. Mr. Rogers then explains that King Friday is giving Colette a key to the kingdom, and Henrietta is afraid the key will open her house. Colette finally arrives to the land of make-believe. King Friday wants to give Colette a key to the city and says that giving someone a key is just a way to say welcome. Henrietta learns that Colette will receive a key to the kingdom and is upset by the news. Henrietta wraps rubber bands and string around her door for protection. She thinks the key will allow Colette to get inside of her house. Then Colette will take her place in the land of make-believe. Henrietta will not allow Colette into her house. Lady Aberlin retrieves the key from Lady Elaine and heads over to show X the Owl. X the Owl and Lady Aberlin discuss Henrietta's new security system. They agree that they would never let anyone's special place be taken away. Lady Aberlin tries to talk to Henrietta and tells her that she's Henrietta's friend, and Colette would never take her place. No one would ever take Henrietta's special place. They explain to Henrietta that the key doesn't open anything and that the key is just to welcome Colette. Back at Mr. Rogers' house, he explains that Henrietta felt bad because she was afraid that someone else would take her place. He asks his viewers if you've ever felt bad when someone goes through your personal space or things without asking. To answer his question, yes, I feel bad when people violate my personal space and private spaces. When this happens, I feel a loss of control. It feels like a breach of trust and a lack of safety knowing that there are some spaces supposed to be just for me. Like Henrietta, I too get worried and afraid sometimes that someone might take my place. In a way, my role in my community defines me. And when someone new comes along that does the same thing that I do, it's probably a normal reaction to think that they will take my place and I'll no longer have a role, purpose, or value in my community. It makes me wonder, am I still lovable? Do I still have a space in my community? Do I have value? Mr. Rogers gets a phone call from Bob and wants to show us the inside of a lock which fits into a door. At Bob's shop, Bob shows us the inside and outside parts of the lock. He shows us how the lock fits into the door and where the key goes. We get to see the side view of how all of the components inside the lock work, when the knob is turned and when the key is used. Bob takes apart the lock so we can see the mechanisms and the parts inside the lock that move when we use the key. Mr. Rogers comments multiple times that we are interested in a lot of things, once again promoting curiosity, creativity, and a love of learning. Mr. Rogers closes with the Tomorrow Song and comments, "You think about the things you want to think about." I feel this is Fred's way to remind us that your mindset is everything. You think about what you want to think about and you see what you want to see. You can stop it and change it anytime you want if you don't like what you're thinking or dislike your perspective. My observations, connections, and reflections. Mr. Rogers isn't just using locks and keys to discuss physical boundaries and personal spaces. He's also suggesting that everyone has a special place in their communities. Like keys, we each bring our own gifts that unlock something in others. No two keys are alike, and one will not work in another lock. Each person we know fulfills a different need in our lives. As Fred says, there's no one in the whole world just like you. It's exactly the thing that makes you different that your community needs from you. It's also important to keep in mind that when we provide someone their own personal place or space in the community, we are communicating to them that we think that they're valuable and that we love them. I also think Fred is talking about our minds when he's talking about locks and keys. Young children don't know that other people can't hear your thoughts. No one can see inside your head to know what you're thinking. Perhaps this is sometimes why children don't respond immediately to our questions. I think most boundaries are invisible. Your mind is like a lock. No one can know what you know or see what you see unless you welcome them in with a key. Personal spaces and privacy are important as they let us be open and vulnerable with ourselves. Privacy provides space to reflect and to listen to our own wants and needs. Privacy also allows us to be our true selves, free from expectations of others, and a break from caring for our neighbors so that we can be our own neighbor and care for ourselves. Questions for myself. How do I show myself that I am worthy of my own personal time? Questions for you. Feel free to answer in the comments. What are some ways you might be violating the invisible boundaries of others? And most importantly, won't you be my neighbor?